Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Today, I have an extremely interesting guest. And before I get started, I just wanted to remind you that if you are interested in a private reading or private training, a private tutoring, and that would be via live webinar for the training, or group training, or certification, or private or group via live webinar classes, just let me know, and you can find out more information at mediumtraceylockwood.com. So today, and this is cool because we have a new format, so our guest is visible to you while I give their intro, so just hang tight and let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an intuitive, and she is a professional medium. She is also an animal communicator, and she's a Reiki master and a teacher, and she does public speaking as well. And I am delighted to bring to the show Meredith Whitney. Welcome to the show, Meredith.
Thank you, Tracey, for having me.
Thank you for being here. If those of you that are listening to the show are curious, you can check her out while we do our show. Her website is connectionswithcritters.com. And I just love her for that and for the work that she does too. And so here we go, Meredith. So, I was curious, as a medium and as an animal communicator in particular, how has that shifted your perspective on life? The show's called From a Medium's Perspective, and I'd just like to hear how doing that changes lives for the people that are on the show. What is your experience? What has it done for you to have that?
Oh my gosh.
Angle?
It has taught me a lot about myself, for one, and about different perspectives on the other side, about animals, how animals have similar behaviors to us, and the other side. Spirit has taught me a lot on shifting my perspective on certain subjects.
Yeah,
like death. Like death isn't so scary. They've showed me the other side and what it's like and what it looks like. It's pretty fabulous.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. So tell us your story. All of us are curious, some people start out, from the get-go, and other people have the gift hit them up sideways at one time in their life or another. And you also have expanded it, not with just people, but animals. So tell us your story about how all that came about for you.
Well, when I was a kid, I had several visions, and I was too scared to tell my parents. And when I had a horse when I was a teenager, I used to ride and show hunter jumpers. And
cool.
My horse would give me these visions, and I'd be like, oh, what's that? Like, I didn't know it was coming from him. And we had Beatrice Leidecker out at our show barn, and she pretty much told me the same thing that he was showing me in my head, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I kind of dismissed it. I didn't really know what it was, but he was communicating with me through pictures.
What were some of the images that he sent to you or was giving you?
One image was, we had just gotten back from a horse show, an away horse show.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Monday, I think, and we were just, goofing off with our horses, riding bareback. And when I was getting him ready in the cross ties, he showed me a vision of him. My trainer at the time was also a barrel racer on the weekends. She did rodeos. And she set up barrels in the middle of the ring for us to like just goof around on. Yeah. And he showed me a picture of him like going around the barrels, not just trotting, but like full on running around the barrels.
Wow. And
I kind of dismissed it because I didn't know what it meant. But I think he was trying to tell me, hey, I'd like to do barrel racing or, do something Western. So, but we never got to do that.
Oh, well, there's only this life for now. So, oh, wow. Wow. And so how did that connection happen for you? Like, how did it go from that kind of random incident in the barn that was very spontaneous to where you are today?
As a kid, I kind of turned it off after that because I just felt it wasn't accepted in my family. And at the time, I don't know, being a teenager, trying to go through school, trying to be accepted by others, all that teen angst stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in my later years, like, I don't know, about 2002, 2003, I started to open up again. And I started seeing visions on the wall, hearing voices in my head, and just feeling stuff that I didn't remember feeling as a kid. So I started working with my spirit guides more and more, and I started opening up more.
How did you just sense that they were around you? How did you connect with them? Like,
I felt them, I heard them. I saw I've seen one, I think, or two. And they just kind of brought me out of my shell, and I started to feel more and more comfortable.
Did you just talk to them mind to mind, or did you sit in meditation, or
when I was by myself, when my son was in school during the day, my ex-husband was at work during the day, so I pretty much had the whole day to talk with them and work with them. And that's how it happened. It seems like it happened like overnight.
When it happens, it happens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so you do offer this as a service to people, right?
Yeah. I do animal communication sessions. I do intuitive sessions. I do medium sessions. I mostly do, working with people and their animals.
Mm-hmm.
And mediumship. Those are the two main.
Your favorite part.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. So I know like I have people come, not people, well, kind of, animals come through sometimes in readings from the other side, or, and I do a little bit of animal communication locally if people ask me to, like, they'll send a picture of their horse, or I'll go to their house and talk with their dog or whatever. And for me, it always gets into like past life stuff, and sometimes the past lives that they've had with the people that are currently there. When you do your connection with them, obviously you had a natural connection from childhood, because that profound of a level.
I didn't know it, but Yes, I did. Also have my mom's oldest niece um,
Mm-hmm.
is also psychic. I
Oh,
didn't find that out until I was pregnant with my son, and she put her hand on my belly and she told me, "Yeah, you can have a boy." I'm like, "Wait a minute, you are." She calls it ESP, and but I was thinking, I didn't know this like my whole life.
right, right.
Yeah, I've been told I'm fourth generation psychic medium.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. You know, a lot of people either don't understand the label psychic medium or they don't relate to it one way or another. I find it an awkward label because it is such a natural ability. And I think a lot of people have abilities and connection because I think it's a natural aspect of being human. But I think that the nomenclature kind of separates us,
well,
perhaps.
everybody is psychic. Everybody is intuitive.
Yeah.
It just depends on what level you're at.
Yeah. And I think people can develop their mediumship skills too,
Yeah, they,
if they desire to. Yeah, I do. You know, just because I teach so often and so much and different people at different levels and stuff. But I think that there are people that are either from past lives or from genetic heritage or just personality are just more alert or aware of some of those things. Often when somebody has an experience, they just dust it off, sort of like your encounter with the horse at first, because it just doesn't have a reference point. It just doesn't have, like, what was that? That, I don't know, you know, like that
that's
kind of
really
thing.
good.
Or it's scary to people because they don't expect those that have crossed over, animal or human, to just boop pop into our awareness, either physically or otherwise. And and also there's a lot of speculation on the part of different religious groups that feel that, you know, maybe it's not wholesome or something like that. But I think if you get to the depth of each of the religious traditions, you'll find people that were seers and prophets and sensitive. And you know, since the dawn of time, you know, it's not like a new thing that just happened, you know, with
Well,
the
my
advent
spirit
of
guides
TV
told,
mediumship or something like that, you know.
yeah, well, my spirit guides told me, um, like back when I first opened up, like in early 2000, they said, you know, you were a psychic in a past life. I've been a veterinarian in a past life, and that makes a lot of sense.
Wow, what a great
Yeah,
package. What a great
right?
package. Yeah, it just naturally comes together. And isn't it interesting that that's kind of a soul interest that would pass beyond just this life, you know? That's
Yeah.
so cool. That's so cool. So I know people are wondering, and this show is to let you talk about it. How do you communicate with animals? Do you have a process? What is it that you do?
So the way I talk to animals and spirit is pretty much the same. It's telepathic communication, and I get words, pictures, or feelings,
Mm-hmm.
or I just know something.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, like if I'm just sitting here at my home office and all of a sudden, like I'll hear, hey, hey, um, they'll either say, they know my name, because animals automatically know that I know how to talk to them.
Yes,
Auto,
yes,
and spirit does too,
yes.
which can be a problem sometimes when you're out in public. I have to put up a, not available right now.
Yeah,
Sign.
yeah. I put in my order like I'm just shopping. I'm just shopping. Okay.
Right.
Like,
So
you know,
I'm at
if
lunch
it's
with a friend.
urgent, I give you permission to, you know, to disturb me. But if it's not urgent, make an appointment. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to make boundaries with spirit and
Yes.
animals, just like you do with humans here in the physical. It's very,
Oh,
very
that's very
important.
interesting about the animals. I think of it
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of spirit. I became allergic to cats, and up till that time, cats would find me. Do you know what I mean? Like I always had at least one, sometimes two,
Hmm.
cats. And it just seemed like they knew when there was like a vacancy, and they would just come. They just came, and I was always like, they're always finding me.
That's how I
And
got my
um,
cat.
and when I developed the allergy, I came to like an awareness that the last cat that I had came to me also, and as it would sleep on my throat, and I knew that it was giving me healing energy. I could feel that, and it was the sweet. It looked was such an just little white kitten. It had medium length fur. It kind of had those sphinx looking ears, but it was a mix. And but after like a month, I couldn't even breathe, like walking up and down the steps to between the levels and of my home. And so I had to rehome the animal, and I was just thinking like, I can't, I just can't have cats anymore. And it was really sad for me because I love animals. And from that day, even though I didn't consciously mark it or say anything about it, not one cat. And this has now been like 10 years. Like we're talking maybe not 10 years, maybe 8 years, not one cat. And I'm telling you, they came out of the woodwork to me. They
Yeah.
just, yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about
And
setting
they,
that.
yeah, they understood, and that cat understood. Came into your
Yeah,
life to try and heal you,
yeah,
but they understand. Animals understand.
they
They can
do.
read our thoughts. They can hear our thoughts.
Yes.
So it's very
Wow.
important what you think and what you project outwardly to animals, humans, you know.
Being a medium and being an animal communicator, do you find that when you go to people's houses that their pets respond to you differently than other people?
Yes.
And in what ways does it? Because sometimes it's a little different for me. Go ahead and tell them what.
I've had one experience or a couple where I'll just be walking down the street or shopping or something, and I'll see a dog or, and I'll walk up and say, "Hey, can I pet your animal?" They say, "Oh yeah, sure." She doesn't usually like people, so I'll kneel down and I'll start pet. Hey, hey, that's weird. She usually doesn't like people, but she likes you. And then I'll tell them, "Oh, well, I'm an animal communicator." They say, "Oh, you talk to animals?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And they understand. Animals can feel people's energy. They can tell whether a person is genuine and honest and has integrity, or whether somebody's intentions are not so good. They can tell that. And I can too, because
Yes.
I can feel people's energy. So
Yeah. Yeah, they're really amazing. They're really amazing. And I was just thinking the other day about um, I've been essentially single for about 12 years. And not that I didn't date here and there, but, like basically just restoring my life and just, you know, developing and having fun and just my work and, being able to focus on what I want and that kind of thing. And, and I just, oh my God, I completely lost my train of thought. I was thinking about animals. Yes. Okay. That's it. Silly me. So I was thinking about how animals have soul contracts with us as well.
yes.
Like I was walking with my little dog Daisy and my bigger little dog Duck the other day. And Daisy was like, you know, resistant. She's 13 and she's a Chihuahua Yorkie. So she doesn't like cold. She doesn't like grass. She doesn't like male dogs. So, but she loves me. And and hold on a second, I want to put this down. And so I got angry at her, and I'm so embarrassed to admit that, but I did. It just irritated the pants
I
off.
get angry with my own animals.
And
They'll
so
tell
I'm
you.
like going down the pathway. I picked her up, and I was not very gracious about it. And I'm like, I'm mad at you, and I can't even believe you did that. And, you know, and I just had this really crappy attitude. And this guy jogs by, and I realized, okay, I am actually literally talking aloud to my dog in that manner, which is kind of humiliating. And so I started working on why I was angry, and I went into like an anger meditation, and I feel like she led it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm
Yeah.
angry because this didn't happen for me, and I'm angry because of this. And I didn't even have any idea I had all that anger up in there. And she told me that she was like my anger teacher to help me move past residual anger, you know? And I thought, whoa, that is so interesting. And so I don't grouch at her at all anymore. You know, I just thank her for reminding me.
Animals
And I
are,
thought how vulnerable they are. Like, she's so tiny. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
she's
the
willing as a soul to come do
animals
that. And
are our best teachers.
yeah, yeah. I had a weird shift. I was talking about animals reacting differently, and you know, anyone watching the show can see you, and if they're just listening, they can hear uh, your vibration, and it's understandable why they would love you, you know,
Oh, thank you.
and because you have a beautiful vibe. But I know once I started working on a particular aspect of my mediumship, I went through like a little phase where I was curious about physical mediumship. So I was sitting for physical phenomenon to happen. Whoa, man, I would walk in houses and where animals used to do that, you know, that like, oh, she's so awesome thing. They would like freak out, like, oh my God, like, and it's almost like they could, and they would just be looking like, you know, like a whole crowd of people had come through the door, and it was kind of intimidating for them. And I thought, oh my God, I felt so, because all my life, like you, they had just come to me. And now they're freaking out, and I'm like, I don't know how to explain that to their owner. Like, oh, I guess they're just seeing spirits, you know. Okay. And it doesn't happen so much now. Now it's more normalized. So I don't know if it was as my gift, I was adjusting into that vibration and finally got settled, or what the deal was.
Sure.
But have you ever had them back away because you can see, they can see that you have a more clear connection to people, and they see the other side? So
Animals do see the other side. They see spirit easier, just like children see spirit easier than adults, because they're more open. They don't have an agenda. It's easier for them to see.
Yeah. Tell us a story about an animal communication incident there, something that either that you were hired to do or that happened spontaneously, however, whatever pops in your mind there.
Okay, so I'm reminded, Spirit's reminding me, tell them this story.
Yeah.
So I went over to a client's house, and this is when I lived in Southern California. She called me and told me to come over because her cat was going, it was really thin and she couldn't put weight on him. So I said, okay, I'll come over. The minute I walked in her front door, all I heard was, I have cancer. I have cancer. I have cancer. I'm like, whoa, stop, wait, what? Let me sit down.
Wow.
So I sat down on the couch, and he came over, and I said, yeah, wow, he's really thin. And I started to get messages from either his spirit guides, my spirit guides, to tell her to get a second opinion from another vet.
Yeah.
So I referred her to a holistic vet.
Oh, isn't it wonderful that people are doing that? Oh my gosh.
A vet that I had personally gone to see with my Australian Shepherd. And she did. She took her cat, and took him to get an ultrasound. And I didn't tell her at the time that he had told me that he had cancer, because I really wasn't sure whether I was
Hard
supposed
to
to tell her or
deliver
not.
that kind of information.
Oh my gosh.
You
Yes.
know, but you did the right thing to say that they should get checked. That
So
was,
she called me the next day or a couple days later and said, we had the ultrasound done and he has pancreatic cancer. And so they put him on prednisone and he lived another 6 months and he started to gain weight. And I said, on the phone with her, I said, I didn't know if I should tell you or not, but I have it written down in my notes that I wrote over at your house that your cat told me he had cancer. That's all he kept repeating, but I didn't know whether to tell you or not. So I'm sorry I didn't tell you. She said, oh, no worries. She said, we'll deal with it from here on out. And he lived a good 6 months, later.
That's wonderful that he had a little bit left in him, but sad that he was suffering that. How was the rest of the visit? Like, what other things did he talk to you about? Or was that just visiting a friend?
No, it was a client.
It was. Yeah. What else do you remember? Sometimes
What?
it's hard to remember
I
what
really
comes
don't remember.
through, like, it's like, yeah.
After that, with so much information going in my head, I have to release it.
Me too. It's the messages for them anyway. And
yeah,
even if we were able to replay some of our most brilliant moments, we don't have time to listen to it because we're still moving through time. I get a bit of comfort knowing that it's all written in the Akashic record, and when I have an eternity, I can just review that and savor it again, kind of thing.
This morning, I asked my guides, I'm like, you're going to have to help me remember some of these stories because I just don't remember.
Most of it, yes, of course. What do you have a favorite animal that you seem to have the most rapport with, like of that their frequency is?
I don't
Yeah.
have a favorite animal. I mean, they're all pretty special to me.
Well, I meant in terms of communicating.
Oh, communicating.
Yeah.
I communicate mainly most of the time with horses, cats, dogs, birds. That's who I mainly communicate with.
Any exotic ones out there?
Yes. I have communicated, the most exotic I've communicated with was a yellow ball python. And she was huge. She was, I didn't think I could communicate with her because I'm like, oh, I've never communicated with a reptile before. And it just happened. Like I started to hear her in my head. I was asking her questions. It was at like a dachshund fest. They called it a wiener fest. And the booth next to
better than hot dogs.
The booth next to me had reptiles. They were an educational reptile company. And so I just walked over and I said, hey, can I talk to your snake? And one of the gals working said, oh yeah, sure. And so I started to pet her and she was draped around one of the volunteers' necks. And I started to tell the volunteer what the snake was telling me. She was saying she needed a bigger tank. She showed me a vision of her surrounded by children. And everything I was telling her, the volunteer was shaking her head. Yes. She said, oh yeah. So she was validating me all the way through. It kind of shocked me because I'm like, wow, I said, thank you very much. I've never gotten to talk to a reptile before.
Yeah, I'm giggling because I'm thinking about Harry Potter and the Slytherin voice, the voice of the basilisk or whatever it was called. It's not that. I don't remember the name of it, but hearing the in his voice. Yeah, but they do communicate. I was really tickled one time. I had just started attending at that time a metaphysical church, and one of my friends that had brought me there, um, we were in a development circle at the time, and she was very tuned in, especially to cats, but also to animals in general. And she says, I've got a popcorn. Does anyone have a popcorn? Does the name popcorn mean anything? And I'm like, yeah. And the medium that was leading the circle started to give me a message from popcorn. He described what popcorn looked like, which is like a black and white spotted dog, and that kind of a hound beagle-ish thing, and that he wanted to apologize to me. And it just shocked me so bad. I was thinking, for what? Because it had been my childhood that this dog was part of my life. And he said he just wanted to tell you that he got tired, and that's why he used to have to go back to his house, and that he's sorry that he couldn't stay longer, like, in this world. And I remembered, it threw me back to a memory in childhood of sitting on my porch and feeling really like a comfort bond with him. And then as he went off, I would feel like, don't leave me. It's like, come back, and I wasn't allowed to cross the street to follow him without permission. So it was really interesting. It really is. And, I think it must be very healing for your clients to have connection with their animals that are around them. How do you find that different, communicating with animals that have crossed? Any same? Doesn't really matter? Or how does it feel different?
My experience is it's no different from talking to animals here in the physical than talking to animals on the other side.
Yeah.
And you still have that close connection, sometimes even a better relationship with them on the other side, better than what you had here in the physical with them.
Do you think that's because they don't have the impediment of the physical body? Like, that's kind of hard for all of us down here.
I think so. I think so.
That's interesting. So, do you remember, like, either the first or remarkable animal communication from the other side that pops in mind for you?
Let me think. Oh, I had a horse named Shortstop. His name was Shorty. And in fact, I have his nameplate.
Oh,
nameplate on my
windowsill. Yeah.
He was my little quarter horse hunter. And after, I remember I had him for only a couple of years because I graduated to a higher level of jumping, and he just couldn't jump any higher than 3'3", 3'3", and he would struggle. So my trainer talked to my parents, and she said, Meredith needs a bigger horse that can jump bigger to move on to the higher jumping classes.
Wow.
And so my parents sold him, and we've been looking for another horse. Anyway, he went to a little boy, and they went to shows like, I don't know, almost every other weekend. And after he passed, I kind of tuned into him to see, how his life was like on the other side. And he said, I was with you at the grocery store the other day. Did you see me? I'm like, no. And, but he pops in every so often and helps me with, animal communication or a problem I'm having. I have quite a few animals on the other side that help me
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
They're my animal spirit guides.
Yeah, they equivalent, yes. Yeah, I had a little Chihuahua many years ago, and so his name was Hot Rod, and he was 15 when I adopted him from the clinic that I worked at. I was a veterinary assistant type person for a while, and did always love the animals. And he came home with me because his people abandoned him. He was uh, he had tooth extraction and he had epilepsy, and they were going to give him to the pound, and I couldn't stand that idea, so I just brought him home, and they gave me permission to take him. And he and I really did have such a telepathic bond. Like, I remember like never using a leash with him, and he used to come to class with me at Odessa College in Texas, and I would just think like, okay, let's go get in the car, and he would like pony up for it, he was ready, and then he would sit in the desk next to me and stare at the professor and doze off, because it was a lot for a 15-16-year-old dog at that time. And his epilepsy just continued to get worse and worse, and ended up he had separation anxiety from me, and so it got so bad that even if I ran to the grocery store, I would come back and he would be in a seizure, and it was just wearing his little body out. And I decided that I probably should put him down. My husband kind of encouraged that at the time too, and it was really one of the hardest things to do. And that, working with people that have lost animals. And so I didn't know what I know now. I mean, I maybe knew it at some level, but I wasn't practicing, and not familiar with verbiage or anything like that. And after he passed, I could see him on the floor, just there, like as if he were there. And I didn't understand clairvoyant vision. I didn't understand animal communicate. I didn't have any words for it. And I just remember seeing him, and that he was okay. He was like wagging his tail and, clearly happy and okay. And I just remember telling him, like, you can't stay here. You've got to go to the light. Where that came from, I don't know. But I cried for 21 years over that dog, not daily, and not like but just anytime I would think of him, because he was such a little man, such a little soulmate. It's hard when we lose
It is
someone.
hard.
Yeah.
And some people think that just because I'm an animal communicator, it makes it easier for me when when even one of my own animals passes,
Yes.
or somebody that I know passes. It doesn't.
Yeah, they assume
get
because you're a
upset.
medium and you can talk to them that, yeah, but it doesn't. We're in the physical. We go through the grief process just like anyone else. It might help maybe in the sense that we are more confident in our communication, because a lot of people visit the people left behind that are not working as mediums,
Yeah.
and sometimes they doubt that, like they
I
think
get upset when one of my clients loses an animal, or when one of my clients loses a human that they love. It's hard for me too.
Yes, absolutely, because you have compassion and we do care. And there is a comfort in having someone here with us, because this is kind of like the wild, wild west of the spiritual realm. It's like, yes, go into the physical world. It's like, ah! So we miss having people with us for sure.
I have lots of friends on the other side.
Yeah, right. Yes. But I do think it's a great comfort, not only to us, but to other people to know that they're doing okay. I think that's and not just doing okay, but what do they have to say about this situation or that situation? I think it makes a big
Sometimes
big
that's
difference.
the only message that comes through for me. Like if let's say I'm doing an animal communication session,
Mm-hmm.
well, all of a sudden, whoa, here's spirit popping in, like somebody's father, mother, grandfather, aunt, uncle, and they just came by to say hi. I see them, waving, and they said, oh, just tell her I'm okay, and I'm happy. I go, that's it? Yeah, see you later, bye.
That I bet if you described exactly like what they looked like and what they, how you sense them, that it might expand. But I do think that that is the most important. And I do think that spirits, both animal and human, take every opportunity that they can to let us know they're with us, that we're not alone, that we are loved, And
Yeah.
you would think we would get tired of hearing that maybe, but I don't
I
think we
never get tired of hearing it.
know. Love is eternal.
And I have no control during my sessions of who comes through.
Mm,
Like if it's supposed to be just an animal communication session, I can't guarantee that.
right.
The
Yeah.
humans, loved ones on the other side, they're taking an opportunity. They're like, oh, Meredith's talking to our daughter, our son, our granddaughter, our grandson. Let's take this opportunity and tell them we're okay, or give them another message.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah. And I think they're interested in the process too. Like I've wondered, like, what is it like over there? How do you know who to talk to? And I think there is some type of, for lack of a better word, openness or something, like a portal, because I know a few times I've had people mention from the other side, oh, it's so good to see you. And I'm thinking, you can see them all the time. Like, what are you talking about? But I got the sense that it's clearer for them, just like we as mediums make the spirit realm clearer by our vision and sensing and knowing. I think that they also can see more clearly the people that are here, perhaps. It's
I
interesting.
believe they can.
Yeah. So, how do you think people could learn to communicate with animals if they wanted to enhance their abilities? What would you tell them?
They can take animal communication classes. I teach animal communication,
Oh, that's
um,
wonderful.
but it doesn't have to be with me. It can be with another animal communicator, or they can just be with their animal, sit with your animal on the floor and quiet your mind and send them loving energy, send them happy thoughts, loving thoughts, and then ask them a question like, for instance, what is your favorite food? What is your favorite treat? And then just sit with it and see what pops into your head, whether a picture or whether you hear a word. That's your animal talking to you.
Yes.
But you have to really be peaceful and quiet in your mind.
Yeah, that point of stillness is difficult for most people to achieve, and possibly because we don't put it as a priority sometimes. We've got the television and the job, and we've got activities we sign up for, and this and that and the other, and life is kind of chaotic for most people. And I think we're lucky to be in a discipline or a field where being meditative and being observant and being still is part of what we do. I think it's healthier for us, and I think
Yes.
it does help us to connect. I always tell people the same thing, like get in that really still place, that place of silence, and sort of where time stops, and then your perceptions open up. And I think it's because we're outward focused during most of our life. We're responding to this, that, and the other. And then when we get still, first of all, we become aware of our own energy. And then when we calm that down, then it's easier to perceive other people.
Doing this,
animals.
yeah, doing this work over the years has taught me to have peace and more patience with myself.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that.
Great.
But
Yes.
have more patience. And I get frustrated when
We
a
all do.
spirit comes through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my rule is you have to identify yourself or I'm not going to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I have rules and boundaries that I have to go by, because if a stranger knocked on your door, would you just let them in?
No, you go, who dat, who dare? Yeah. Right.
Who
Yeah,
are you? And what
that's
do you
right.
want?
Yeah, yeah. If you don't take your
And
gun
I have
first.
business hours. I have business hours for spirit, which is, you know, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You know,
Yeah. You were talking about setting boundaries with animals, and we didn't really touch as deeply on that. Um, in terms of animal communication, did you used to have a problem with animals coming to you at random times, or what do you mean when you're setting boundaries with animals?
um, it's like somebody knocking on your door or ringing your telephone. I would hear, "Hey," and I would see this picture in my head of an animal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm kind of working right now. Can you come back later? And they're like, "No." Here's the thing, I have boundaries and here are my business hours. It's the same, my boundaries are the same with spirit, animals, humans.
Yeah.
They need to respect my boundaries and
So
I
that you can
respect
recharge
theirs.
and replenish so that you can be
Yeah,
there when it is time to be there. Yeah.
I don't do good work when I'm tired or
I won't work if I'm too
frustrated
tired.
or sick. Like if I'm sick, I'm no good.
Yeah, no,
Like
I
I
always
will,
reschedule if there's something either heavily emotional going on for me,
yeah,
or if I'm feeling, and that subtle energy drain that we get as mediums, it's different type of fatigue. It's like I just can't give anymore. Do you know what I mean? Just can't. It's like I've got to replenish. It's not like a physical fatigue per se for me. It's more like it's just like, okay, time to reschedule, and usually people are, all of it's in divine order, so usually people are happy to
well
reschedule
usually
because they
my
know that they're going to get 100% of our focus at
well
that.
usually my spirit team, like when I first got here to Sedona,
Mm-hmm.
my spirit team said, "We want you to take the whole month of November off. No sessions at all." I'm like, okay. And
Yeah,
I did.
yeah, yeah. I think it's important to listen to that. I said it would be great if I just had 2 weeks that I didn't have to meet appointments. Like teaching is easy. I don't mind meeting with a
I
student.
love teaching.
And my show is easy too, so that doesn't bother me. But doing readings takes more type of a focus. It's a different type of focus. Of course, I focus during both the other activities too, but yeah, and I loved it because it just seemed like there was just like a pause in the ethers, like, okay, week 1, TikTok, week 2.
Yeah.
And then I got a little panicked, because our work is so different. It's not like a 9 to 5 job per se. I certainly couldn't read for more than 9 or 10, either a private session or a client, maybe 9 or 10 in a week. That's a full week for me, and with the other things, the group teaching on top of that and the radio and that kind of thing. And I just don't do well with that. And then, so I was like, okay, I've got bills, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, and the next 2 weeks just completely filled up. And I was like, whoa. So I don't know how much control we have over that or not, but it was really cool to think that our spirit teams are
Our spirit team looks out for us, but
handling our calendar for us, like, oh, she needs a break, whether we, consider all aspects of that break or not. That's cool. That's really cool. Well, Meredith, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. You're easy to talk to, and it was fun to meet you and talk about something interesting.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me to interview.
You are more than welcome. You are more than welcome. And for those of you listening, remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you've got nothing. See you next week.